Welcome to Perverted Justice. This is not just a story. It's a call to action for integrity and radical honesty, in spite of personal cost. Now here's your host, Shielagh Clark.
Welcome back. This has been a difficult episode for me to frame because a lot of me wants to tell this story and to have my voice on record about it. And a lot of me does not want to tell this story because I know that people are going to hear what they want to hear. But it's important. I can't continue without explaining it. And it is really foundational to a lot of the misunderstanding and horrible treatment that I've experienced over the past couple of years. I want to offer a trigger warning because this episode revolves around image-based sexual violence, which, for those who don't know, is the non-consensual taking, creating, or sharing of intimate imagery, which is linked to significantly higher rates of depression, anxiety, feelings of hopelessness, PTSD, and suicidal thoughts. In fact, upwards of 40 or more % of affected individuals report depressive symptoms or psychological suffering because this is such a traumatic invasion. So if you remember, in the last episode, Dale said that the reason that he was not going to talk to me in 2019 when I texted him was because he was aware of how I was treating other people. But when I pressed him and asked him to explain to me how I was treating other people, he refused to elaborate. He refused to offer me the opportunity to speak for myself, to clear up any potential misunderstanding. He wouldn't do it. And since, as I explained also in that meeting, the only negative interaction I'd had up until my texting with Dale Blue was my meeting with Jim Mitchell in the hotel lobby in 2019. So I assumed that the person who was upset with me was probably Jim Mitchell. And I decided to go to Jim's church the next day to see if I could clear up whatever the misunderstanding was. I naively thought that if I could go and clear that up, then Jim would explain to Dale that he'd gotten something wrong, and then that would open up lines of communication, and this idea that I was going to misconstrue or that I was somehow a threat to them would just go away. And that's not what happened at all.
I wanted to ask you something. In 2019...
Okay, I'm not going about any history. If you're here for talking about any of the history, I'm not going to talk about it.
Any of the history of what?
Well, where were you going with this? 2019. I don't want to discuss it.
I want to ask you a simple question.
I don't want to get into anything at all. I'm not going to answer any of your questions.
So as you could hear, I only got 2 words out of my mouth. It's kind of difficult to clear up any kind of misunderstanding if you're not even allowed to speak. If you are predetermined to have bad intentions.
Why does nobody want to talk to me?
I think the answer is obvious, okay? Like I said, I don't want to get into...
The answer is not obvious.
Okay, I'm going to get my truck and I'm going to leave, okay? I'm not staying in this conversation with you. I'm not doing that.
Why?
Because I don't do that.
You don't do what?
That was Kevin.
Okay.
They're on their way back here. So anyway, I don't know why you're here. I don't know what I can do.
But you don't want to know. You don't want to know.
I do want to know. But this
you
is
don't
not...
want to know.
Because I know it's going to get into a conversation, Shielagh. There's no way it cannot. Be reasonable. Think about it.
I'm being reasonable.
Well...
I'm being reasonable. I think it's reasonable for the people who have said things to tell them to me. And if people aren't supposed to gossip, because that's what you say, right? You're not supposed to gossip?
I told nobody
so
anything.
I'm coming directly to you.
I don't know what you've heard. If you heard it, didn't come from me. to Joe Blow and Mary.
Wasn't Joe Blow anybody?
Okay, well, you got information from somebody.
Well, I know
that you
for a
want to
fact.
discuss to me about.
I know for a fact that you met with Murray and Green and Blue.
No.
In 2019.
No, that's incorrect.
Oh, so
I never met with Rich regarding this incident with you and Jonathan. Never met with him. That was Mike maybe and somebody else, but it never was me.
So Jim finally admits that he did have a meeting with Murray. Murray called him up and asked Jim Mitchell what really happened here. And let me just remind you, Murray wouldn't talk to me. He wants to know what really happened from everybody except the person who could tell him what really happened.
Now, whether you want to believe that or not, I really don't care. Okay, I'm telling you the truth. I never talked to Rich in reference to this whole issue. No, let me back up. I did meet with him. I went to his office. He called me to get some information about what happened. I told him what I know. I said, thank you. He said, thank you, and I left.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that's not satisfactory to you...
Was that in 2019?
I don't remember the date. That's
Was it after I talked to you in the hotel?
Okay, listen, I don't want to have this conversation any further, Sheila. I really don't. I know I'm sure you think I'm rude, but that's the way it's going to be. I'm not doing it. Okay? Whether it's okay or not, I don't really care.
So Jim went inside, and I didn't follow him.
We'll see you. Be careful when you drive. Don't get into an accident. Okay?
Yeah, I'm such a threat. I don't understand why grown men keep running away from me. It's kind of silly, really. You're running. Being cautious of what? Why is everyone afraid of me?
No one's afraid of you.
You are.
No one's afraid of you.
You are.
No, I'm not.
You're acting like I'm a huge threat and I'm going to hurt you somehow.
Okay. You have a good day.
Thanks for acting like Jesus today. Every other day leading up to today.
When the Faddens showed up and I tried to talk to them, Jim said he was going to call the police. And when I tried to have Kevin step off the property to talk to me, Jim actually did call the police.
You're not letting them talk to me? They're not grown adults who can make their own choices? Please. Call the police. You're not able to make your own choice around here? You're not able to make your own choice? Okay, is there a reason you don't want to talk to me?
I don't even know what's going on here.
But you're just gonna...
We don't know what's going on here. I don't know why you should us.
But you don't want to know? We can step over there and you can talk to me? Will you step off the property and talk to me? What are you afraid of? You people are amazing.
That's correct.
You're gonna go inside?
And I left. I went over to the police station.
How can I help you?
I'm the person that they wanted off their property.
You're, you are?
I am.
Sheila, I have an officer coming to talk to you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hi. What's going on? I'm pretty upset.
I think I remember you coming in about 3 years ago. You came in 3 years ago requesting these documents, right?
Yeah. A lot of people that used to go over there go over here now.
To the Resurrection Church?
Yeah.
Okay.
They broke off and they made this church over here. And I don't want money from the church.
You don't want money from the church?
No,
You just want
someone to
be held accountable?
apologize for what they did and how they handled the situation. They made me publicly apologize. And they made me think that everything that happened to me was my fault.
I understand.
And I have a specific question because yesterday someone told me that the reason they won't talk to me is because they are aware of how I was treating other people, and I haven't done anything to anyone except ask questions. And so they told me that they wouldn't tell me exactly what they were talking about. So these people are all about not gossiping and doing the right thing, right? And being like Jesus. So I came over here to talk directly to the person that I think it was about and just ask him so that I could clear up whatever was the miscommunication, because everybody keeps running away from me. Nobody wants to have anything to do with me. So I wanted to ask Jim Mitchell a question. He showed up and told me that he wasn't going to talk to me. And he wasn't going to get into it. And I kept asking him why he wouldn't talk to me and what is he afraid of? Like, why am I such a threat to everyone? And he said that the answer is obvious, but he won't tell me what the answer is. And then the Fattens came, and they,
Who came?
The Fattens. And
The who?
Fattens.
Who are the Fattens?
Kevin and Linda Fadden.
Okay.
And Jim said, I'm not going to allow them to talk to you. And I said, aren't they adults? Can't they decide for themselves? Mm-hmm. And then Jim told me, if you don't leave the property, I'm going to call the police. And so I tried to just ask Kevin if he would step off the property to talk to me. And we don't know what's going on, Shielagh. We can't talk to you. And he said, you don't want to know what's going on? And then Jim starts styling the police. I'm so tired of being the bad guy all the time, and I haven't done anything. And now they're calling the police on me.
Okay. So you did nothing wrong. You're not in trouble. Nothing you did was wrong.
Shielagh, do you have your ID on you?
Yeah.
You didn't do anything wrong. You're not in trouble with me. Okay?
Yeah.
Is there anybody I can call? Please?
No.
So we have a lot of services available here in Dutchess County if you need to talk to somebody. If you want to talk to a counselor, somebody just to help you calm down and somebody to listen to. You know, I'm one of those people you can talk to.
I just don't understand how so many people can preach about Jesus and then act this way.
I know.
I don't understand that. I wonder that if they don't have something to hide, then whatever, and if they do know something that they should be saying, then they should want to.
I know.
I get it.
Unfortunately, we can't force people to have morals, but...
Oh, they are? Okay.
Who are they?
Can I just... Tom Slaughter.
Hi.
Hey.
So there was no physical removal or anything, right? It was just...
She did nothing wrong. She, you know, when she was asked to leave, she left.
Okay.
And, you know, there's nothing criminal.
It wasn't a welcoming environment.
No, unfortunately not.
It's just crazy how somebody who is a victim is being treated like an abuser. You know, somebody's...
That's what happens
right?
often, and that's why a lot of people don't come forward with things, and, you know, a good portion of the time we don't get closure, except that you're not going to get an apology from the other people that were involved, which I think is a really difficult thing to do.
You know, with all these years, they have more than plenty of time. You know, we're not talking 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 years, so...
Yeah. No,
what they say and not wanting to talk, it's just to pacify whoever they're talking to.
I don't have any problem talking about me to other people. And they're saying things that are not true. And I just wanted to talk to them about what it is that I'm doing that's being misunderstood so that I can clear it up. But they won't talk to me, but they'll talk to everybody else.
Yeah, it's like, it's ruining your character and everything with everybody, but yet,
You guys got plenty to say when I'm not around, and then you just...
I mean, I think is kind of crazy, that you just have somebody that's hurting and then you just
keep hurting
them. Yeah, and I understand that it's painful. That they're just going to treat you like that and be okay with it and be willing to believe whoever they're talking to and act the way that they are, then you don't need them in your life.
Boggles our minds. It's like people in the Christian community that, when you're part of a church and the way that they're treating others, it's just painful to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't walk the talk.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking to me.
Of course. That's what we're here for. We're all here for you. We're here to support you if you need to talk to somebody, so.
Thank you.
It was a very upsetting ordeal. It felt a little bit like all of that effort was in vain because I still didn't know what it was that I was doing that was upsetting to people or mistreating someone and keeping Dale from talking to me. But the next day, Mike Green called to apologize for Jim Mitchell calling the police. He said he couldn't believe it. If he'd been there, it wouldn't have happened. And I believe that. But in the course of the conversation, I think it was Francine who asked me, "Do you really think that Jim saw naked pictures of you?" And I was shocked, but I knew exactly where it came from. Immediately, I knew where it came from. And I need to pause here real quick and just make it very clear, because this matters a lot. There have never been any naked photos of me. That accusation is a lie. And unless I die in some horrific way that requires an autopsy, there will never be naked pictures taken of me. What did exist were degrading photos that I was forced to pose for against my will. I did not choose to participate in that activity. I did not consent to being photographed. And I didn't have any control over what happened with those photographs after they were taken. And the truth is that that loss of control was absolutely devastating to me. And it still affects me today. Research shows that this kind of violence is not just embarrassing, it is traumatic. And studies find that people who've had non-consensual images taken or shared are far more likely to suffer depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, PTSD, deep shame, isolation, and broken trust. One survey found that 93% of victims experienced serious emotional distress, and almost half of the people who had them distributed were harassed or stalked because of the images. And that matches what I've lived. The church leaders who should have defended me did not call those images what they were, evidence that I was harmed. Instead, they weaponized the images. They used them to paint me as if I was the problem, as if I were a whore. And once that label was attached, the damage locked me into a false story that I can't escape. And this whole episode is proof of that. So this is 2022, and I am just now finding out for myself a story that's been circulating about me since 2019 because of stories that have been circulating about me since 2005. Jim Mitchell said to me at one point that my reputation preceded me. My reputation has never been based in reality, and it certainly has never been connected in any way with my words about my lived experience. So I'm going to go back to 2005 and try to tell you the story in order so that it makes sense. In 2005, when my abuse was exposed, and the pastors apparently were going to collect the church paid for computer from Weaver, he refused to give it and smashed it with a hammer apparently stating that it contained images of me that he promised no one would ever see. At the time, I was relieved that they were destroyed, and I actually thought that Weaver destroying them was kindness. And in hindsight, I recognized he could have deleted them, and he didn't. He knew that they would be coming for the computer, and he chose to leave them, and he smashed the computer and announced the existence of these images as a way to harm me. He had an agenda to protect himself. He took some subtle actions and some not so subtle actions to frame me in a certain way so that people would look at me not as a victim, but as the problem, so that he could protect himself from the crimes he committed. So the pastors took the computer and threw it in the dumpster instead of taking it to the police station to see what could be salvaged and used as evidence. Pete Nargi has a degree in criminal justice. He thought that it would be worse for the church if the computer went to the police station. I'm not going to get into that. And I remember in 2005 that he asked me, what were the pictures? What were they pictures of? And I told him that they were pictures of me with hardly anything on. That was my answer. But I guess the way that rumor and speculation work, they quickly became naked pictures of me. No naked pictures of me have ever existed. 2007, 2006, people start coming back around and asking the church what really happened here. And according to Alex Valentine's deposition, the pastors on the board were telling people the charges were dropped, we just want to move on. In other words, she must have been lying. 2014, Rick Murray is hired. The board tells him that Jonathan Weaver had an affair. They didn't tell him that he sexually abused a child. They also didn't tell him nothing. 2017, I come to town for a wedding, meet Murray for the first time, and unbeknownst to me, I go home with a new story being told about me exposing myself to Murray. Because I'm such a whore. I show up to this wedding with my husband and 4 children and still walk away with a new lie. 2019, I bump into Jim Mitchell in the hotel lobby. We're having a conversation. One of the things that I was trying to drive home to him was how many red flags were missed all through my abuse. He volunteered information. He said that his grandson had seen me come out of Weaver's RV and asked Jim why we were spending so much time together. I have no idea why Jim told me that, but I tried to explain to him that should have been a red flag. And I reminded him that when he was in Ukraine with Weaver, they were on a train, and Weaver's screensaver came up on his laptop, and a photo of me came on the screen. It was among other pictures of his wife and his children all flashing on the screen as part of his screensaver. Jim saw the picture of me and asked Weaver why there would be a picture of me in his screensaver, and Weaver explained to him that I was just an important part of their family. And I said to Jim, and that settled the issue for you. And I said this all to him just to help him to understand that there were glaringly obvious things that people missed. Jim went back to his church and told them that I accused him of seeing naked pictures of me. And I'll say again that no naked pictures of me have ever existed, so I never would have said that. But I was referring to a sepia-toned headshot of 17-year-old me with a braid in my hair. It was a picture of me that Weaver had on his computer. And Jim heard picture and apparently just made some mental connection with these pictures that everybody talked about in 2005 and decided that I was accusing him of seeing them. So then Rick Murray calls Jim Mitchell up at some point in late 2019 and asks him to come in and tell him what really happened. So that's the meeting where Dale and Mike and Rick and Jim were all together. And I don't know for certain. In that meeting, Jim talked about me accusing him of seeing naked pictures. And this then informs Dale's decision not to trust me, not to talk to me, because what might I accuse him of? And this starts the snowball of all of the misunderstanding, the compounding problem, lying, dodging, hiding, litigation. And now we're in 2022, 2 years into litigation, with people, men, sitting across the picnic table from me, refusing to talk to me because they are so sure that I'm going to harm them in some way. And it's all based off a lie, a compounding lie about my character that I have never had any control over. So I explained to Mike and Francine what actually happened in that meeting with Jim in 2019. I wrote a whole letter and I signed it and I sent it to Mike so that he could read it in the next church board meeting. And apparently that was met with a lot of resistance, and Jim called me a liar. And eventually, after some pressing, "Are you sure she said naked?" Jim said, "Well, what other kinds of pictures would she be upset about?" Complete disregard for the impact that his assumptions have had on this entire process. I mean, my reputation completely aside, but this process of trying to resolve the past has completely been sabotaged by a stupid misunderstanding that should have been resolved directly with me when it happened. You have all these guys talking about how I'm breaking this cardinal rule. Jim Mitchell himself saying that I need to be thrown to Satan because I sued a church. But Jim Mitchell doesn't have to come and tell me that he's distressed because I accused him of something he didn't do, so that we can have a conversation and I can realize that there's been a miscommunication and explain to him what I actually meant. No consequence for him. No wrongdoing in his mind. Dale and Murray and who knows who else can just accept a rumor told about me as fact and refuse to communicate with me as a measure of self-protection, and use this idea that I'm going to misconstrue or lie as justification after they have spent, the church has spent the last 20 years completely misconstruing my character, my entire life. And I'm not suggesting that two wrongs make a right. Just because they've misconstrued my character does not give me a right to misconstrue someone else's. That's not what I'm arguing. I just find it hypocritical and mind-blowing that they can repeatedly violate so many clear directives that they would argue are clear directives of Scripture, that they're justified in doing that. But I need to be thrown to Satan because I filed a lawsuit to be heard, largely because they are refusing to do what they should do and talk to me. And I asked for someone to please go and tell Dale Blue what actually happened, to go clear up this misunderstanding. But to my knowledge, no one ever did that, which was particularly upsetting to me because when Jim Mitchell called the police on me, I posted on Facebook and I said, that he just called the police to have me removed from his parking lot because I wanted to ask a question. And I said, so much Jesus. And a lot of people responded in support of me. And there were lots of reviews left on the church's Facebook page. It felt good to be supported and defended. And at the same time, I knew that I was going to be held accountable for everything that was said on my behalf, whether I would have said those things myself or not. And so I went and I asked everyone to please remove the words from their reviews. If they could leave their 1 stars, that was fine. But to remove the wording. I also followed up asking people not to harass the church. I went in and I helped do damage control for Jim Mitchell's nonsense behavior, but they didn't help clean up the mess that Jim Mitchell made for me. Sorry that I'm not able to record this without tears. I've built a whole life outside of this circle of people. I don't want to sound like I'm trapped by the past or their interpretation of me. I have never lived my life as a victim, picked myself up, and I moved on. I'm still dealing with a lot of the consequences of this period of my life, and I will probably forever. But I understand that I am not defined by the horrible belief of these men. And at the same time, I'm telling these stories because I want to try to break through to the people in this world and other ones like it so that they can understand the actual impact of their behavior and maybe want to function differently. So quickly before I close, I just want to I want to read something to you. My attorneys were not thrilled that I had this conversation with Dale and Alex, and they asked me to type up a summary of my visit to New York. And in that summary, I wrote, I realize that this conversation was probably not wise, but I feel about 7,000 pounds lighter since having it. I don't know what I believe about what they knew or didn't, but they know now, and I'm not fighting an invisible enemy anymore. I'm sorry in advance if it causes a problem, but I would like to request that we don't use anything said in any way unless they try to weaponize the conversation first. I'd like it to just sit and not be mentioned at all if it doesn't need to be. I want to see if anything changes. And contrast that with what happened at the next court conference. The church's attorney came to the court conference and told the clerk that I had showed up on the church property and confronted their client, and that the next day the police had to be called on me. What we believe shapes what we do. I believed that there was misunderstanding and that I was dealing with good and honest and ethical people, and that finally communicating straight to their faces would resolve the issues and lead to resolution. They believed that they were dealing with a dishonest, unethical, wayward woman. And the reality of those beliefs are fleshed out in the behavior that is repeatedly seen. And it's a war I'm never going to win by myself. I don't even know what comes next. I guess next time we're going to talk about depositions. Thanks for listening.
If your community is dedicated to fostering a safe and supportive environment, connect with Grace, Godly Response to Abuse in the Christian Environment, at netgrace.org. Grace's mission is to empower Christian communities to recognize, prevent, and respond to abuse effectively. They provide vital resources and training to help churches understand the complexities of abuse and adopt effective prevention policy and trauma-informed responses.